Welcome to Ghazali. I'm just back from Korea, where I was there to participate in an exhibition which was called Art, Sea and Fun. And this exhibition had an interesting title. It was called Art Ludens. I was very inquisitive why it is Art Ludens, and I read about it. And now, this was inspired by an author from Netherlands whose name is João Hijinga. Now, this João Hijinga got his PhD in 1897 from the University of Amsterdam, and his thesis was about jokers in Sanskrit plays in India. And then he wrote a book called Homo Ludens. And in this book, he basically argues that the most important character of human society, of human race, is fun and to be playful. So playfulness and having fun is the integral part. And we are very fortunate today that we have with us today a man who has definitely added a lot of fun to a lot of people's life, E.P. Unni. E.P. Unni is the cartoonist of Indian Express, and he has a column every day, a pocket cartoon every day in Indian Express, and also larger cartoons. He has been one of my teachers as a cartoonist, and I'm very lucky that I have been fortunate to meet some of the legendary cartoonists of India. I met Shankar when I was a teenage boy, then of course Abu Abraham, R.K. Lakshman, and now E.P. Unni. Welcome to this program. And let's start with how did you start? How did you get into cartooning?
Thank you, Subodh. As you know, that there's no organized way of getting into cartooning, which is itself a fairly disorganized craft. I mean, it's a subvertive, it's an inverting kind of a craft. I got into it purely by, in a sense, by accident. Also, in a sense, natural, because I grew up in Kerala in the 60s as a student. And Kerala is highly cartoon dense or cartoon conscious. There was a lot of cartooning happening around me. We had a publication called the Madhrubhumi Weekly. It was like the Bengali Sandesh and so on. Very prestigious literary weekly, which carried on its last page a full page cartoon every week, where the cartoonist told a story which was slowly developing. Apart from the fact that there were comic characters which would appeal to any child. So you could easily replicate those characters. A comic character is easy to reproduce. So that was the first attraction. Also, it slowly, as it started reading and picking up a little bit, then the story grew on you. It was a story of a young man looking for a job. And that was done by the legendary G. Aravindan.
Okay.
He ran that series for about 13 years. And it is, in a sense, probably our first experience of a graphic narrative or a novel before that form was ever...
Did the boy find a job?
No, he became an entrepreneur.
Okay.
It's a very serious literary fiction. It became a very serious piece of fiction, literary fiction, about loss of innocence. It reflected those days, the turbulent 60s and 70s. Major political and literary, cultural concerns it reflected. It also reflected the urbanization of old port town like Calicut, maybe somewhat like some older parts of Goa, into a full-fledged city. It was kind of...
inspiration came from a kind of a graphic novel.
Yeah, it is a graphic novel. I want to stress 2 points. If both were in there, I probably wouldn't have liked the cartoon. It was comic. Anything comic or musical will appeal to a child, I think, most children. It appealed to me because it was comic. Very easy to draw one line there, you get a smile, you invert it, it becomes a grin, and so on. I mean, a grin becomes a grimace. That basic comicality was there in the drawing. There were comic characters. Also, it was telling a story. The cartoon told a story.
So that was your first initiation?
Yeah, all children like stories. That was my first initiation. Then Kerala is also very political. As we started reading newspapers, picking up papers, reading, became a student, you started listening to the radio. Radio used to play a very major role those days. And slowly you started getting a little political. So all the newspapers again carried cartoons. And we were very lucky to have some very fine cartoonists working at that time. When I was in the campus, Abu was drawing 6 days a week his pocket cartoon called Private View in the Indian Express, which you must have also grown upon. O.V. Vijayan was doing a barreled cartooning. He was doing bilingual. He was doing in English for the Hindu, display cartoons, 3 or 4 a week, and he was doing 2 or 3 display cartoons for the Madhubhumi in Malayalam. I mean, it was difficult to imagine the same cartoonist doing both. He was so rooted in both language spaces. Very, very fascinating. So I had some of the finest informal training as a viewer. And then Shankar's Weekly was there.
And Shankar's Weekly. So which was your first cartoon?
Shankar's Weekly published my first cartoon.
Shankar's Weekly
published my first cartoon. I was uniformly rejected by the local press. Even my college magazine wouldn't take it because I was political. They wouldn't publish a political cartoon. They would like you to do a social, innocuous campus joke. Shankar's Weekly published my first cartoon in '72 when I was a student.
For me, I have some connection with Shankar's Weekly too because
we both connected.
Shankar's children's competition, I won a prize and I went there and I got a watch, which was one of the biggest prizes I ever won when I was a little boy. So that was, and then I met Mr. Shankar at a dolls museum which he had.
Right. I never met him. He was one senior cartoonist. I never got around to meet him because by the time I got to Delhi, he was very ill. He followed my work for some time. I was an occasional contributor. I would send 10, 15, one would get published, which was a big thing. Then he dictated a letter and sent it to me through one of his editors.
I had the total collection of Shankar's cartoons, and one of the cartoons I still remember. There's a committee will be appointed about why the flag did not unfurl when they pulled the cord. I remember that very much. Okay, then how did you get into Express?
Oh, Express, before that I got to the Hindu. I had 12 years of cartooning in Chennai. Then I came to Delhi to work for a weekend newspaper called the Sunday Mail. I was there for 2 years, then I syndicated for 2 years, got into Economic Times for 3 years, and then got into the Express. I've been there for 20 years now.
20 years in Express.
21 years.
So how many books have you published?
Books, I did a book on travel sketches, not cartoons. I sketch and travel. A book on Kerala. It's a travel book on Kerala. It talks a little more about the place than a normal traveler would, having looked at the place for many years.
One on Kochi.
No, this first one is on Kerala. It discusses Kerala through the motifs from a comic, Asterix. There are 3 big chapters in it. One is called Asterix, Cacophonics, and the Druid.
Okay.
Asterix is that elemental part that makes the Malayali different from the rest, which doesn't seem to go away with all urbanization, all exposure. That is Asterix. That elemental little residual thing that makes him stand apart, makes him a little difficult, or good, or whatever. Cacophonics is the kind of noise that Kerala has become. And it's a very noisy place in more sense than one. And Druid is again with all the communism, with all the material well-being. There is a streak of spirituality in Kerala, both divine as well as alcohol. There's a certain urge to escape.
The 3 characters.
These are three sections of the book where I discuss these 3. There are visual validation. I mean, when you draw a temple, church, and all that, you talk about the last part, the spiritual part. When you draw, sketch other more everyday structures, then you talk about the rest.
You know, a large percentage of Indian cartoonists seem to be coming from South India, especially Kerala. What must be the reason?
This has been a mystery, I think, of some sort. Abu had an explanation. Abu had 2 explanations. One was a funny explanation. He said that like Jeeves, like Goans, or like people Bengalis, we eat a lot of fish. So that could be one reason.
Fish could be responsible.
Yeah, he said that.
That's why we have Mario here.
Mario
also enjoyed
fish. And also some brain. You know, Jeeves is supposed to say that all his brain came from the kind of fish that he cooked and ate. So that's what Bodo said. The serious reason is, he says Kerala has had a high literacy and political literacy on the one hand, and low employment. So that gave, that's a very, very heady kind of explosive mixture. So there are young people who have studied well, who have learned well, who have read well, they have no job. So that creates a lot of disaffection. And since they are literate and they are educated, they don't all turn criminals or violent. They become sarcastic. So this is the second explanation. But this is not a sufficient. This is a necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition.
Do you think when the art of cartooning or the tolerance to cartoons, tolerance to humor is decreasing?
It is certainly decreasing. It is certainly decreasing. It is decreasing all over the world. I mean, it's also decreasing in France. More settled kind of democracies like France. Something like Charlie Hebdo. Nobody could have imagined even in the days of Ayatollah Khomeini. I mean, from Ayatollah to this ISIS, things have worsened. I'm talking about not a very large benchmark. I'm talking about fairly proximate benchmarks. So things have become worse. It is certainly worsening within the country also, because we are moving away from the kind of original goals of constitutional democracy, for which every political party in the country, according to me, is responsible. Because almost every political party has shared power at some point or the other at the center, and some in the states. So it's not just the ruling party today or the ruling party they replaced 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Every party, including the left to right, regional parties are responsible.
Mamata Banerjee actually arrested a boy for just doing a cartoon.
26-year-old boy was charged under sedition.
Under sedition.
I mean, that can ruin a person's life.
I recollect about 25 years ago, I did a cartoon where Shankar and Parvati are sitting next to each other. There's Ganga coming out of Shankar's head, and poor Parvati is just holding an umbrella not to get wet. Now, this is a harmless cartoon.
It's a beautiful cartoon.
But now, this cartoon was published in the front page of the local newspaper. Today, no newspaper will publish it. Today, they will say we will be hurting sentiments of some.
Point is, there are only two sentiments going around. One is the market sentiment, the other is the religious sentiment. The romantic sentiment is again disallowed.
Yeah, but it's very sad, and I read a very interesting thing about it. It said just because your sentiments are hurt doesn't mean you are right.
No, you're not right.
Because I have...
In the Supreme Court hearing, one of the younger judges, a very dynamic judge, one of them asked, what do you mean by the fact that somebody's sentiment is hurt? I said, the law is not there to protect every sentiment.
Absolutely. Law cannot be so
sentiment. If you abolish sati, it would have certainly hurt the sentiments of large numbers of conservative people. That abolish dowry, it will hurt the sentiments of large number of people. Mother-in-laws.
No, I have since I'm also a doctor, I had a very interesting analysis. So my own cartoons have hurt many sentiments. And they came even after me and they wanted to burn my gallery. Well, some Ganesha drawings. So then I started thinking and I came to the conclusion it's a disease. And I call it religious sentihertitis.
That's a very good way of putting it.
Religious sentihertitis. Then I started thinking, what is the etymology of this disease? Is it a viral disease? Is it a bacterial disease?
Or is it contagious?
Or contagious. So I came to the conclusion, neither viral nor bacterial. It is actually a psychosomatic disease.
It is.
So you want to get your sentiments hurt, they can hurt an instant.
Okay, fine. It's kind of hypnotism.
Absolutely. Did you have any problems with this kind of hurt sentiments?
I have had problems with hurt sentiments, but I have worked with papers which have sort of guarded me. People have written letters and so on. They have not actually come and burned down the building. No.
Okay, let's...
And also I stay more or less clear of faith. Faith is something that I don't normally touch. I, of course, talk about the politics of using religion. I mean, that I oppose. But I stay away from faith.
Okay.
And also I have another reason. Just because the way my cartooning has evolved, I have become less and less of a display cartoonist.
Okay.
I become more and more of a pocket cartoonist.
Okay.
Pocket cartoonist, the point is because of limitation of space, you can't do any elaborate visualization.
Okay.
Because my frames will all look like their frame, the kind of frame in which we are sitting. They're cropped, two head, like Abu's, talking heads cartoons. Mostly pocket cartoons are talking heads. And I do some kind of graphic tweaks here and there, which means that you don't do any kind of direct depiction. So people's sentiments to that extent are not hurt.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the Gandhi cartoons which you have displayed here. Thank you for being part of this show, Gandhi.
So I have to ask you this, because I have a question to ask, if I may.
Okay.
What made a serious artist and a very serious artist, both conventional as well as innovating, you have also extended to installations and so on. What made you choose a cartoonist for the show? Because I had a very, very, very strange experience with one of the drawings of Gandhi that you have used, which I had sent to a friend of mine in an embassy who wanted to make use of it.
Gandhi on the bicycle.
Bicycle. So that, they thought that you can't caricature Gandhi. You know?
They thought it's blasphemy to Gandhi.
Blasphemy to Gandhi. But you asked me to send cartoons for a show.
Yes, we basically, one thing is that cartoon on Gandhi on a bicycle is, I think, one of your best works as a drawing. I mean, I love that. That is so lovely. I mean, Gandhi always walked, and Gandhi has been used a number of times, walking Gandhi as a symbol of walking. Actually, recently in America, a town wanted to promote walking, and what do they use? A big picture of Gandhi, and it says walk. So that way in Amsterdam, that Gandhi on a bicycle and please cycle would have been very apt.
No, that was an idea. They used it. They used it with a photographic kind of an image. They were not able to take a cartoon because after 70 years of independence and so on, we still think that cartooning is mockery or cartooning is blasphemous. Cartooning doesn't go with our national culture. This is completely wrong particularly in the case of Gandhi, it's wrong.
No, I basically feel that, Gandhi, I think you pointed it out, Gandhi's cartoons, before his death, many cartoonists have done Gandhi, including Shankar and many cartoonists worldwide. Almost in every country, a cartoonist has done Gandhi. And there is no other person perhaps alive, who after death got into so many cartoons like Gandhi.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So you have done so many. So for me, I do not essentially make any difference. There are, like Mario Miranda, many people called him an illustrator. Now, I feel Mario Miranda was a great artist, period.
Yeah, no doubt at all. Absolutely
he was a great artist. You cannot call him an illustrator. So, your drawings are as good as any artist who can draw well. You have your own style which you have developed, and it's so expressive. So I don't make a difference between, levels in art.
No, you didn't have a problem with the genre called cartooning. That's it. That's considered a low art.
No, I absolutely feel that I think cartooning is a very serious business. Absolutely serious business, and it should be taken very seriously. To create humor is no jokes.
I know.
So I wanted to use humor because wanted to use cartoons because I feel it is a very powerful language of communication. A joke, a cartoon can convey so powerfully, and that's what I thought that we'll invite your cartoons. And Kunal Ray, who is our co-curator, he suggested that, and before that, actually. Jack Suraya, he had suggested, why don't you have a show of Uni. So anyway, these Gandhi cartoons, first you tell me a little bit about these cartoons, because they will be showing it on the screen.
Nothing. Actually, somebody asked me yesterday when the show opened whether these cartoons are all done as part of a project. They were certainly not done as part of a project because they happened in the course of doing an everyday cartoon, daily cartoon, all news driven. The strangest thing, as you said earlier, is why does Gandhi certainly is not making news every day. So how does he come into the cartoon even now? I think he comes into the cartoon because when something goes terribly wrong, and somehow he walks into the cartoon and upstages the contemporary politician to become a kind of a device to tell the reader that maybe things are worse than we imagine. Maybe it's not just the politics that's wrong. The socially something is going wrong. Moral fiber is probably not strong enough. Something seriously wrong with our democratic tradition. When you're raising such issues in an editorial or in writing, you can do it. You can do a bit of grandstanding and you can express it very seriously. A cartoonist has to do it with a slightly more subversive manner, and I think Gandhiji is an excellent device for that. And so he offers himself to you as a national icon who didn't take his iconic status seriously at all, and he laughed. And most of the Gandhi pictures you see, a man who's considered very serious and all that, He's the kind of picture he's either actually laughing or he's ready to break into a smile. You can hardly see a grim face of Gandhi. And he's also, the way he sculpted his body, I mean, it lends itself to any child can draw him. Probably nobody can draw him better than a child.
And Gandhi has become so very relevant.
Absolutely relevant.
There's no other politician now, so many years after his death, he's alive.
Very
Alive in every issue.
Which sadly is bad news. According to me, it is bad
Why do you
news.
say it's
Because
bad
it's bad news because some things are not working. If things are working well, we were, supposing we are being run by somebody like a Jawaharlal Nehru, we will see less of Gandhi. We'll see him on his birth anniversaries and death anniversaries. We see him in between far too often. According to me, he is a warning signal that things are not all right.
I really love some of the cartoons, and we must show them to the viewers. There's one which, when the Rashtrapati elections happen, we have this carriage which says at least Gandhi and Swaraj. The words are still lingering.
It's a very lateral kind of a cartoon.
And then the other one with denaming.
Denaming of the road. Yeah, denaming of the road.
I mean, they're so lovely. And then Varun Gandhi. I think we will show a few of these cartoons. Well, let's come to, for some reason, I find that we had Punch, we had Tughlaq in in the south. We have had a few cartoon periodicals. Right now, there is not a single cartoon periodical active in India.
Cartoon periodicals are folded up abroad also, but regional languages we could have cartoon periodicals or at least cartoon supplements on Sundays. I don't know why it is not happening because I think the reason is that people have become a little scared of irreverence. The same
Humor
reason.
is under threat.
Humor is certainly under threat, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why
it is under threat. Yeah, it's not happening. That could be one of the reasons. Also, I have a feeling that cartoon now, in the 21st century, like art, Gandhiji brought us together. Yeah, because an egalitarian Gandhi took an egalitarian Gandhi to bring a major high art space, a gallery space, opened up a gallery space for a cartoonist. Things like that. When cartoon should become part of the larger discourse, larger art discourse, art space, gallery space. Cartoon should seamlessly get into that space and link various things. I think cartoon is a kind of glue. See, cartoon, I'm sure you've read quite a few graphic novels where high literature is being brought to a wider readership through this medium of cartooning. Graphic novels are cartoonish. They're not just picture stories.
No, they're cartoonish.
They're cartoonish. So same thing is happening. When you look at your device and you look at a comic, emoticon is basically a cartoon.
We were talking yesterday about thinking of organizing a national cartoonist kind of exhibition at Museum of Goa in near future. And we discussed the curatorial note. I think you had a very interesting suggestion. Please tell us about it.
No, I thought that, one way of doing it is also it should benefit young people who come in. So one way of doing it, one way among many ways is to sort of do the older cartoonists, take their prime time and use their cartoons to speak about prime years and then go on from the 40s to the 70s and 80s.
I think that was a brilliant idea where he suggested that we narrate the history of this country in the medium of cartoons.
That's what happens. Ultimately, that'll what happens. If you go around and take a look at it 2-3 times, you will get a sense of...
I think Mario will be very happy.
Mario, I really miss him. When I come to Goa, that makes me a little sad.
You must have been to his house
many times. And there was an unfulfilled project. He wanted me to stay there and draw his sketches house out. 30-odd rooms and 320-year-old house. But he said he'll open every room of the house. He said one condition, don't draw a political cartoon for 1 week.
Okay. So I think we should make Mario's wish come true.
Yeah, we'll hopefully do that.
I will be really happy if you do a series on Goa.
I will. That would be absolutely a pleasure.
I think many people will be I will be very happy to host you and then go around and
that will be really fun to do it. It's an extension of the West Coast, part of Kerala that I have done, and a little bit of Bombay I have done. This will link both.
Okay. So we'll definitely think of doing this conference on cartoons. No, I have been doing a few works which could be called 3D cartoons.
No, I have seen that the traffic jam and very,
This
very
is
interesting.
traffic jam.
Yeah. And the rock and roll is
Rock and roll.
very provocative.
Rock and roll is colonial rock and roll.
Yeah, I know.
And here's a head where you could, perhaps think of doing some sculptures which are humorous.
I don't have the skill to do it, but I probably can look at possibilities of doing such things. Yeah, yeah. Now, only when you sculpt, when you make something 3D, it becomes part of everyday life. No, I cannot create a toy and give it to a child.
No.
I can only create a mental image. When you actually do this, you're giving a toy to a child.
Actually, Lakshman himself used to do something with a pencil.
He used to.
He used to draw the scrows in
He's pure artist. Pure artist.
Lakshman incidentally did visit Goa and he did some 40 drawings in Goa. That was very, very interesting. So lovely to have you.
My pleasure.
And looking forward to your book on Goa.
That is to happen.
And perhaps some sculptures. Which will do in cartoons.
I'll have to give you the concept and I'll have to wait.
And that's exactly how it should work.
We'll work.
Once you have the idea, then to get it done, we can always do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Yeah.